was 13 when I ran away from home. I was 13 when I smoked my first joint. I was 13 when I threw it all away. My name is Vince Lichlider from Jonah 33, and this is my story. I was 3 years old when I was adopted right here in Tacoma. Had hopes of raising the normal American family. And then about 13 years old is when everything kind of went south. I moved to a public school in Puyallup and started just hanging out with the wrong crowds. 13 years old is when I found, the whole skateboards and girls and drugs. I got busted by my dad when I was 13 at a little band practice that I was having for smoking pot. And my dad walked in on a smoking pot, and that didn't go over very well. He's a master sergeant, retired master sergeant in the Air Force, so he's pretty much pulled me aside, and he's like, look, this thing's got to work like this. It's my way or the highway. And I think that kind of backfired on him. I decided that I would much rather smoke pot than have parents, so I bailed. I ran away from the time that I was 13 to 19. I probably ran away 4 or 5 different times. Around 17, I started doing a lot of acid, and I met an acid dealer. Up to this point, I completely burned all my bridges with my parents. I went into their house and I stole straight from their bedroom, and then went to court with them and was emancipated at 17, which pretty much means I divorced my parents. Ended up strung out on crank, and by the time that I was 18, I was completely burnt out, completely lost, had no real grip on what life was. Ended up living here on this street, moved in with a crank dealer named Bobby. I was 19 years old, didn't really have any direction or focus in my life at all, and Bobby and I had pretty successful drug dealing business, I guess, for a while. His dealer called up, blamed us for losing a bunch of money, and said she was going to send somebody to our house to kill him and anybody that lived in his house, and that would have been me. So Bobby said he had to go take care of some business, and I remember he went to his bedroom and he came back out with a shotgun, threw a shotgun in my hands, said if the door gets kicked in, fire first or suffer the consequence. And left me a little present on the coffee table. I turned over and looked, and it was a big pile of dope. I stayed up on that dope for 2 weeks. Every time I get tired, I just hit another line, And you stay up for 2 weeks, you can start hallucinating, your mind can start playing tricks on you. I ended up becoming really suicidal. It was in this house right here that I almost took my life. I turned the gun on my head 3 different times in a 2-week period of time, because at this point I was completely alone, completely isolated. I'd burned the bridges with my friends and my family because of my habits and the way I acted. Nobody wanted to be around me anymore, and just completely isolated in the living room of this house. My parents had retired and moved from Washington to Arkansas, and I got their number, called them up and asked them if I could come home. They said I have to think about it, and I made up my mind that if they called back and said no, that I was gonna just pull the trigger. I was gonna off myself. Luckily, by the grace of God, man, they called back and they said that they'd be willing to bring me back for Christmas, for the Christmas of '93, to spend Christmas with my family. So when I'm 19 and I fly back to Texarkana, my dad picks me up. They didn't have to. There was absolutely no reason for them to even think about bringing me back. I was 19, I was supposed to be a man out on my own, and they kind of knew where I was at, what I was doing, and that's the first time I ever saw Christ. Ended up going to this stupid lock-in at a church in this town of 500 people in the mountains of Arkansas. The guy that was kind of organizing the whole thing, he's a youth pastor. Something was drawing me to him, I couldn't really figure out what it was, but he called me up a couple days later, took me out to lunch, and just kept telling me about Jesus, and I was just like, man, thanks but no thanks. I've done it this long, I don't need it now. And he's like, all right, cool, I just wanted to let you know where I'm coming from. And that really got me thinking, because he was the first guy that was a Christian that I ran into that just didn't flat out tell me I was going to hell or this, that, and the other. And quite honestly, I didn't really care, I thought about it, and I went over to his house a couple days later just to kind of wrestle with him, you know, just to kind of see, all right, your Bible says this, and how come this happened in my life? And it seemed like every question I had to try to prove him or Christianity to be a lie, he had an answer for, and it made sense. So it was about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I just gave up, you know. It was either try Christianity or just go ahead and kill myself, because at this time I was still suicidal. About 3 o'clock in the morning, I knelt down on this dude's love seat in the living room, and just kind of surrendered everything over, you know. And ever since then, it's been a completely different story. I was 21 when I gave my life to Christ, when I fully found out the power of His forgiveness. And looking back through all the stuff that He brought me out of, it's absolutely amazing, the depth of His love for me and the stuff that He's given me now. It's absolutely astounding. I have a beautiful wife. I got a beautiful little 4-year-old boy. I got an awesome chance with this band, Jonah 33, to share the gospel. And the cool thing is my story, it didn't end in the house. The story is just now beginning.